Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
For fun, he came to his friend's wedding with a restroom cleaner from the train station, but when the groom saw her, his face changed. Lisa Pinacho's parents shielded her from all hardships. In her childhood, Lisa felt completely safe and comfortable. But as she grew older, she began to feel as though she was living in a cocoon made of unbreakable glass. "Mom, but it's warm outside," protested 13-year-old Lisa when her mother asked her to put on a hat. "Warm, yes, but there's a wind." "What wind?" "It's warm." Lisa continued to argue. "Warm. It's spring, but spring weather is tricky." Helena Pinacho threw up her hands. Over time, Lisa realized it was often wiser to listen to her parents, but in the end, do things her own way. Perhaps that's why she got involved with Aniceto Nieto? The Pinachos had a family business, a private hotel that provided a decent income. "When your mother and I step down, you'll be running the hotel," said Senor Pinacho, Lisa's father. At that time, she was in the 9th grade. "What if I can't?" "Not everyone is cut out to manage," the girl asked. "Well, it's something you learn. Your mom and I weren't born knowing how to run a hotel either, but look at us, we're doing it, and quite successfully, as you can see." Senor Pinacho waved his hand. "But honestly, you could hire someone for that. The only problem is, crooks are everywhere these days. Someone like that will just pretend to manage things and end up stripping the hotel bare like a goose carcass. So, the best option for you would be a good marriage. Find yourself a capable young man, obviously from our circle, and he'll run the hotel. Then all you'll have to do is count the profits and give directions. Don't you think you're marrying me off a bit early? Let me at least finish school first." Lisa laughed. "Time flies, it'll pass before you know it." Senor Pinacho remarked sensibly. "And, by the way, your mother and I have already found you a fiancé." "Seriously," she smirked. "And who is this super-duper specimen?" "An excellent choice. The son of our business partner," her father assured her. "His name is Franco, a handsome guy, working on his degree." "A handsome guy, working on his degree. Right, what more could a woman want?" Lisa nodded mockingly. "You're being unnecessarily sarcastic. Franco will manage the hotel brilliantly. His charisma alone will be a great asset. You'll make a wonderful couple." "Wow, it seems like you've planned out my whole life already." Okay, Dad, don't frown. Tell me this, how am I supposed to meet my future husband?" "Nothing could be easier. Next Friday, we're attending a reception, and the Mendoza family will be there in full. That's where you'll meet." To the great disappointment of their parents, the children showed no interest in each other. However, as it turned out later, the persistent parents didn't lose hope of uniting their families, while the children preferred to remain good friends. Why not? In her 11th year of school, Lisa fell in love. Kito wasn't part of high society, his parents were ordinary workers, and he himself was finishing a modest technical college. When Lisa's parents found out, they were horrified. "Our daughter is dating some scruffy nobody," gasped Senora Pinacho. "Is this why we nurtured and cared for you? Did I ask you to? All the other kids could go on hikes freely, but I had to beg you for permission and wonder if it would happen this time. So, it's about hikes now?" Senor Pinacho squinted. "Are some hikes more important to you than our family business?" "Dad, please don't mix everything together," Lisa said tiredly. "I really am grateful for everything you've given me, but you've often gone too far. Sorry, but I'm just being honest. As for Kito, I love him very much, incredibly so. And I won't give him up just because he doesn't meet your expectations." Gregorio and Helena exchanged glances. At that moment, they were both thinking the same thing: our daughter has grown up so much. Lisa graduated from school and enrolled in law school. Much to her parents' dismay, she continued to see Kito. Although they still held on to the hope that her friendship with Franco Mendoza would blossom into love, they wisely decided not to push things. With time, she'll realize that this Kito isn't the hero of her story, Helena said, and her husband nodded. But time passed, and Lisa's love for Kito, who had graduated from college and started working at a factory, only grew stronger. When Lisa entered her second year of university, a terrible tragedy struck the Pinacho family, forever dividing their lives into before and after. The Pinacho's Jeep exploded right in front of their house, just as Senor Pinacho got inside. Senora Pinacho had forgotten her phone and had to go back for it, a twist of fate that saved her life. "Papa! Papa! Daddy! How could this happen?" whispered Lisa, standing by the closed casket, holding her mother's arm as the woman trembled and seemed unaware of what was happening. After her husband's funeral, Helena withdrew into herself. She sat in the living room, staring into the distance, lost in thought. "Mama, you need to eat," Lisa said quietly, but the woman didn't respond. "Mom, do you hear me?" But Helena couldn't hear her daughter. She was in her own world, one where she was happy and loved. Soon, the poor woman fell gravely ill. "Goyo will take her with him," whispered neighbors as they saw Lisa helping her mother into a taxi to take her to the hospital. But Lisa refused to believe it. She looked at a photograph of her father with a mourning ribbon in the corner and pleaded with him. "Dad, I know how much you loved Mom, but I'm begging you, don't take her with you. I won't be able to bear it without her." Lisa felt as though her father nodded at her, as if to say, "Don't worry, my dear, I won't take your mom. Someone has to take care of you." But, alas, misfortunes never come alone. A week after Senor Pinacho's memorial, men came to see the hotel manager and demanded that he convince the owner to sell the hotel for next to nothing. "Yes, but Senora Pinacho is seriously ill, so I don't feel it's right to bother her. Let alone pressure her," the manager said, spreading his hands. "Well, this is business," one of the visitors shrugged. "And in business, there are no sick people, only those who make money." "Well, all right," Mariano Contreras replied after hesitating for a moment. "I'll speak with their daughter." When the manager called Lisa, she felt a wave of unprecedented anxiety. She was about to have an important negotiation. Moreover, she had to protect her mother from worry, and this sense of responsibility gave her strength. "At first, my parents protected me from everything. Now it's my turn." "All right, I'm ready," she thought. She loved feeling grown up and strong. Finally, the unbreakable glass cocoon had shattered to pieces. "Senor Contreras, are you joking?" one of the visitors asked mockingly. "What's there to talk about with this girl? Is she even 18 yet?" "I am," Lisa responded calmly. "So let's get straight to the point." "Straight to the point it is," the man nodded and began explaining the purpose of their visit. "All right, I hear you, but you must understand this is a very serious matter, so I'd like some time to think it over," Lisa said with dignity. "Of course, take your time," her interlocutor allowed generously. "They won't leave us alone," Helena said to no one in particular, as if speaking into the void. "They killed your father to take over the hotel for pennies. And if I'd been in the car, they would have gotten it for free. Maybe we should really sell the hotel for the price they're offering?" Lisa asked cautiously. "I thought your father and I would leave the hotel to you," her mother replied quietly, tears welling up in her eyes. "And now it seems there'll be nothing left to leave." "That's hardly a problem," Lisa scoffed. "Mom, you've still got so many good years ahead of you. You'll recover and make loads of money. You're an amazing businesswoman. And I've got plenty of time too. I'm young and healthy. I'll have a great education. Do you really think with all that I won't be able to make money?" "You've grown up so much," Helena said thoughtfully, her eyes glistening with tears. "What can you do?" "Life doesn't stand still," Lisa replied with a smile. Helena signed a power of attorney for her daughter, and the Pinachos sold the hotel for almost a third of its actual value. "How about celebrating the deal at a nice restaurant, gorgeous?" Sergio Delgado, the young man handling the sale suggested with a sleazy smile. "I'm not your gorgeous," Lisa retorted, lifting her nose in defiance, and walked out of the office. "Ooh, feisty." Ponomarev teased playfully and made a clumsy attempt to pat her cheek, but Lisa recoiled in disgust and left the office. "So, the hotel's not yours anymore?" Kito asked. The couple was strolling through the park, and Lisa was telling her boyfriend about how she had rebuffed the revolting Delgado. "Well, if we sold it, it's not ours anymore," Lisa said with a shrug and a smile. "What are you going to do now?" he asked. "We'll figure something out. I've got my hands, legs, and head, everything else will fall into place." "I see," Kito nodded. "Lisa." "Yes?" "I need to leave urgently for something. I made arrangements this morning. It's about a new job." Lisa knew that the factory where Aniceto worked was barely hanging on, and all the workers, including him, were looking for other opportunities. "Well, if you have to, go ahead," Lisa said, though she was puzzled by his hesitation, sensing he wasn't telling her everything. "This isn't anything shady, is it?" "What makes you think that?" "Your voice just sounds strange." "Everything's fine. I'm just nervous, it's about our future." "Really?" Lisa smiled, her heart pounding with excitement. "Is that so?" "Yes." "All right, see you later." Kito awkwardly pecked her cheek and headed toward the bus stop. A sudden, uneasy feeling washed over Lisa. Senora Pinacho's condition suddenly took a turn for the worse. "Your mother urgently needs surgery," her doctor, Senor Herrera, stated firmly. "It's her only chance. The surgery is costly." "And how much are we talking about?" Lisa asked. The doctor punched a few numbers into his calculator and handed it to her. Lisa let out a relieved sigh. The amount was almost exactly what they had left. Of course, there would also be rehabilitation expenses and hospital deliveries, but what did it matter when there was a chance to save her mother? Money could always be earned. Tears glistened in Lisa's eyes. "Senorita Pinacho, I understand it's a significant amount, but in your case, everything's fine. Where should I transfer the money?" The surgery was successful, but as Lisa had anticipated, her mother needed a rehabilitation course. "I can recommend a good sanatorium," said Herrera. "It's like a resort, and the cost is quite reasonable." "That would be wonderful. Can you give me the details?" "Of course." The money was running out, so Lisa decided she had to find a job at any cost. After visiting the hospital, she had a job interview lined up, and she was extremely nervous. Still, she felt confident that things would work out. She had often noticed that solving one problem often set off a domino effect, resolving others. "When can you start working?" asked the recruitment manager. "What do you mean?" "Exactly what I said," replied the stylish young blonde with mild surprise. "Are you saying I've been hired?" Lisa asked incredulously, and then immediately scolded herself. God forbid she thinks I'm a complete idiot. Fortunately, the manager didn't seem to think so. "Yes, you understood correctly." "So, when can you start?" she confirmed with a smile. "Right away," Lisa exclaimed joyfully. Could Lisa Pinacho, a romantic young woman, a sheltered only daughter of well-off parents, a diligent law student, and a true beauty, have ever imagined she'd be working as a restroom cleaner at a bus station? No, no, and no again. But, as the saying goes, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and you can never say never to poverty or prison. Lisa, however, didn't view her job as a descent into poverty. She was simply doing her work honestly and earning at least a small income. Besides, Lisa much preferred Nietzsche's quote, "That which does not kill us makes us stronger." And, of course, her own mantra, "We'll make it. We'll make it. We'll make it. We'll make it." Lisa repeated to herself as she sprayed disinfectant in the public restrooms of the city bus station. The next day was her day off, and she planned to visit her mother at the sanatorium. The bus station manager, Senor Reyes, turned out to be a kind and understanding man. On Lisa's third day of work, he advanced her some money from her future paycheck so she could buy her mother some fruit and her favorite dark chocolate. "She's a good girl," he remarked to his deputy, watching Lisa dart around busily. "She's studying law and now transferring to a part-time program so she can earn money for her mother's treatment. She's quick on her feet," the head of security said with a smile. "That she is. Students like her are always welcome here." "Mom, you look amazing," Lisa exclaimed, handing her mother a bag with her favorite treats. "Oh, why did you have to spend so much?" Senora Pinocho said, shaking her head. "We've already spent so much money on everything." "I got a job," Lisa announced triumphantly. "And my boss gave me an advance. So don't worry, we'll make it." "You got a job?" her mother asked, incredulously. "Exactly. And what kind of job is it?" "I'm a fairy of cleanliness at our city bus station," Lisa replied proudly. "I clean the restrooms." "Oh my God. And what about your studies?" "What about them?" "I've decided to transfer to a part-time program." "Part-time?" "The full-time program has a higher level of education." "I can't disagree with you, but someone has to feed the family," Lisa noted. "Feed the family? Who would have thought it would come to this? Your father is gone, I'm hopefully only temporarily unable to work, and you, instead of studying properly, are cleaning bus station restrooms." "Mom, it's fine." "And the restrooms?" "Well, someone has to clean them." "Why not me?" "Yes, I see how fine it is," Senora Pinocho said with a bitter smile, studying her daughter closely. "You look a little pale. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine. Just a bit nauseous sometimes, probably from overworking." "Maybe. But something tells me it's not just overwork." "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean. How are things with your women's days? Are you saying that I might?" Senora Pinocho nodded and asked how things were with Kito. "With Kito?" Lisa said thoughtfully. "What's wrong?" To be honest, with everything going on, Lisa had completely forgotten about Kito. Over the last 5 days, he hadn't called her once, nor had she called him. Could it be that our relationship has run its course, she wondered. Well, sooner or later, you two will have to talk it out. But it's strange, your Kito used to call you 5 times a day, and now you don't like him, and Dad didn't like him either, Lisa stated. That's true. But it's your life and your man. Still, the signs are obvious. Though, of course, I hope I'm wrong. Thank you, Mom, Lisa said sincerely, gently squeezing her mother's hand. For what? For understanding. All I want is for you to be happy. I'll try, her daughter replied seriously. On her way home, Lisa stopped by a pharmacy and bought a pregnancy test. As if in a daze, she removed her coat, sank onto a poof, and began to think deeply. She couldn't decide what she wanted more, a positive result or a negative one. But where is this uncertainty coming from, she wondered, and the answer came almost immediately. It was all because of Aniceto's strange behavior during their last meeting. If Lisa hadn't been so preoccupied with her mother's health and finding a job, she would have called him herself. But then again, Kito hadn't reached out to her either. Why? All right, I'll deal with that later, Lisa interrupted her thoughts. First, the test. She stared at the 2 bright red lines and felt mixed emotions. It couldn't be said that Lisa was happy, but she wasn't upset either. What worried her more was how Kito would react. Well, we're about to find out, she said thoughtfully and, without overthinking, called her boyfriend to tell him he was going to be a father. So, you're saying that? Kito didn't finish his sentence, it wasn't really necessary. His voice sounded confused, and Lisa concluded that the news of impending fatherhood didn't exactly thrill him. What did you expect? The guy hasn't even found his footing yet, and here I come with this news, she scolded herself. But it had already happened, and whether Kito liked it or not, they had to talk. Yes, Aniceto, that's exactly what I'm saying, Lisa replied, already anticipating a difficult and unpleasant conversation. You're not happy? What? No, of course I am. Aniceto said unconvincingly. I'm happy, really, but... But what? Lisa, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Stop beating around the bush and spit it out. If there was one thing Lisa couldn't stand, it was dragging things out unnecessarily. All right, fine. Here it is. Lisa, I've fallen in love with someone else. For how long? Lisa's voice turned hysterical, and she immediately wanted to slap herself for it. What difference does it make? You're right, it doesn't. But there's a child. What's the baby done to deserve this? Nothing. And I'm not planning to abandon the child. I'll take responsibility and all that. And all that? Nieto, you're unbelievable. What did I say? Nothing. Lisa said and hung up. Aniceto shrugged, got into Juliana's Mazda, and drove toward a flower stand where he bought a massive bouquet of vibrant raspberry red roses. They were the favorite flowers of his new love, the daughter of a construction company CEO. And Lisa? Well, she was part of his past. What did he need her for without the dowry of a private hotel? But Juliana, now she was not only an enticing mix of beauty and sensuality, but also a doorway to opportunities her father had already hinted at. Impressive opportunities. The key was not to mess it up. And what are you planning to do? Senora Pinocho asked. You can call me crazy, but I'm going to have this baby. Lisa replied without hesitation. And why do you think I'd call you crazy? If you ask me, it's the logical thing to do, isn't it? Her mother said with a sad smile. Of course, you should. You already love your baby, regardless of who the father is. That's all that matters. By the way, the so-called father's reaction didn't surprise me in the least, she added, shaking her head. It didn't surprise me either, Lisa thought, but didn't dare say out loud. It was too painful to acknowledge that she had likely been nothing more than a rich bride to Kito, a stepping stone to secure his future. Better to forget him like a bad dream, though she knew it wouldn't be easy. But Lisa had never been one to take the easy way out. Let's not talk about him anymore, she said to her mother, surprised at her own calm. I'm glad to hear that. And I must say, you're handling this so well, her mother replied proudly. I'm trying. After all, I have someone to live for. That's true. After some thought, Lisa decided not to mention her pregnancy at work. As a future lawyer, she knew that, according to labor laws, she couldn't be fired for it. However, in practice, things might turn out differently. A pregnant cleaner wasn't exactly what an employer would want. While they couldn't legally dismiss her, her colleagues might find ways to push her out. She had heard plenty of such stories. Of course, Senor Reyes was not only a fair boss, but also a wonderful person. Without a doubt, he would be attentive to her situation and would step in if her colleagues caused trouble. But Lisa preferred to keep her pregnancy a secret for the time being. After finishing cleaning the accessible restroom, Lisa hurried to clean the men's restroom. She was just about done when she suddenly heard an irritated male voice. Can't you be more careful? Lisa spun around sharply and saw a well-dressed, polished young man of about 25. She was about to reply that she didn't have eyes in the back of her head, but he, on the other hand, should be watching where he was going. However, the words got stuck in her throat. The man was looking down, and when Lisa followed his gaze, she was horrified. Dirty water from her bucket had splashed onto his light suede shoes, leaving them in a dreadful state. I'm so sorry. Lisa stammered. Do you have any idea how much these shoes cost? The young man said in an icy tone. Lisa was on the verge of tears, but she still had something to say. Why should she, Elizabeth Pinocho, bow down to this pompous peacock? Well, I imagine you saw where you were walking and couldn't have missed the bucket, she said. I imagine you know this is a public space and could have placed the bucket in a safer spot, he retorted. Oh, really? And where exactly? Do you see how narrow this corridor is? Or do you think I should have put the bucket on a table? I don't care where you should have put it. What I do care about is that you shouldn't have allowed this situation to happen. Otherwise, it shows a lack of competence for your position. The visitor's pompous tone made Lisa want to whack him over the head with her mop. Not long ago, she had belonged to the same social circle as this young man, but she had never tolerated such arrogant brats who thought they were entitled to everything. May I speak to the bus station manager? The man asked. Of course. Of course. Why wouldn't you? Lisa thought bitterly. Senor Reyes was already hurrying to the scene of the incident. What's going on here? He asked. This girl made a gross mistake, the complainer replied indignantly. Interesting, the bus station manager drawled. Nothing interesting about it. She must be punished. For a moment, Senor Reyes glanced back and forth between Lisa and the young man before finally speaking. Here's what we'll do, young man, let's head to my office. You can put your complaint in writing. Absolutely, the man snapped. And what's going to happen now? Lisa lamented. She was sitting in the break room of the cafeteria, waiting meekly for her fate. Nothing's going to happen, shrugged Nuri, the sweetest and kindest plump cafeteria worker. Do you know how many whiners like him we've had around here? You didn't do anything terrible. That spoiled brat will just learn to watch where he's going next time. Now, have some coffee and a chicken pyrosock. They just brought them in half an hour ago. Come on, eat up. Good food always lifts your spirits. Lisa took a bite of the crispy pyrosock, which truly melted in her mouth, and smiled. For the cheerful and round Nuri, food was always the ultimate antidepressant. No matter what happened, the kind-hearted cafeteria worker always suggested a hearty meal. Remarkably, even Josefa, the ticket clerk who was meticulous about her weight, would obediently sit down and eat. And, as it turned out, Nuri was right, delicious food really did improve one's mood. Here comes Senor Reyes. The bus station manager walked into the break room and silently sat in a chair. Lisa stared at him intently but didn't dare ask the question that was weighing on her mind. Well, what do you have to say? Senor Reyes finally broke the silence. Are you going to fire me now? Lisa asked. Why so drastic? The manager chuckled. Technically, you didn't do anything that violated your job responsibilities. So, we'll settle for a written explanation. Really? Lisa exclaimed, feeling an incredible sense of relief. Really, really. Now, finish your pyrosock and coffee, and then come to my office. Yes, sir, she joked, giving him a playful salute. For the successful lawyer Rado Castilla, the morning was off to a bad start. His reliable Lexus stubbornly refused to start, and, as luck would have it, he had a very important business trip scheduled. The outcome of his client's case depended on this trip, so not going was out of the question. Postponing it wasn't an option either, as Renado's schedule was packed down to the minute every day. I'll take the bus, Castilla decided and called a taxi to the station. The nearest car won't be available for at least half an hour, the dispatcher informed him. That's fine, I'll wait, the lawyer replied and settled onto a bench outside his building. His phone rang. Christy. Hi, sweetheart, his girlfriend purred. Hello, Renato replied, slightly caught off guard. I miss you, Christy said with a pout. I miss you too, baby, but I have a business trip, he explained. You always have a business trip. For a moment, it seemed like she was on the verge of a tantrum, but Renato knew it was all an act. Christy definitely had the makings of an actress. You never have time for me, she continued. He could have reminded her that just 3 days ago, they'd had a romantic dinner followed by a passionate night together. But Renato knew Christy would only come up with more arguments about how he didn't give her enough attention and didn't love her. Besides, he was expecting a call from the taxi service, and, technically, he was already on the job. He decided to postpone the discussion until the evening, which he calmly explained to her. To hell with your evening. You're free now, it's over between us. Christy screeched. She hung up, leaving Rado staring at his phone as if it could add something to what had just happened. When the taxi service finally called, he almost dropped the phone. Frankly, it wouldn't have surprised him. Bad luck often comes in waves. If something goes wrong in the morning, you can bet the whole day is doomed. The domino effect. But work waited for no one. That meant he had to get it done, and done well. No work, no pay. He sat in the taxi, thinking resignedly, the car wouldn't start, my girlfriend dumped me, and bad things come in threes. I wonder what's next. The third unpleasant surprise awaited Rado at the bus station. While using the restroom, dirty water from a bucket placed in the middle of the narrow corridor by a young cleaner spilled directly onto his light cream suede shoes. Rado was furious and demanded to speak to the station manager, who responded promptly. But what did it accomplish? Essentially nothing. The manager promised to have the cleaner write an explanation, and that was it. What else did I expect? Rado thought as he settled into the surprisingly comfortable bus. Besides, it's partly my fault. The cleaner was right, the corridor is narrow. It's not like she could have put the bucket on a table. I should have watched where I was going. She's just a young girl, probably at her first job and clearly not doing it by choice. She was so scared. And no wonder. I shouldn't have been so harsh. I should make time to go back to the station and apologize. Anyone who knew Rado well could say he was a genuinely good person. This was absolutely true. He lacked the cynicism often associated with lawyers, and, more importantly, he was willing to admit his mistakes. So, he felt it was his duty to apologize to the young cleaner. Rado sighed heavily. It was unlikely he'd find time in his packed schedule to visit the bus station. Christy was right when she said I never have time for her. But that wasn't true. No matter how busy he was, Rado always made time for his girlfriend. He sent her sweet messages with thoughtful and expressive emojis. When he was free, he'd take her to cafes or restaurants or plan a luxurious romantic dinner. Our relationship has run its course, Rado thought. But neither of us has the courage to admit it, to ourselves or each other. Maybe it's time. The thought trailed off as Rado was too afraid to pursue it further. But when the fear subsided, he continued, it's hard to make such decisions, which is why so many couples just go with the flow. They get married and then complain when their marriage doesn't work out. But even divorce is a step many are afraid to take because people are scared of change. Just like I was. Rado didn't notice when he fell asleep, and when he woke up, he was surprised to find they were already nearing the city. Seeing the bus station reminded him of the young cleaner. Why am I thinking about her, he wondered, concluding it was his conscience speaking. On the return trip, Renado's mood was much improved. The trip had been productive, and the unsightly stains on his shoes no longer bothered him. He was ready to tackle all his remaining problems as they arose. Pulling his phone from his jacket pocket, he dialed Christy's number. She declined the call. Well, let her be. She'll call back once she's calmed down. But do I even want her to? The thought flickered briefly before disappearing. Once again, he thought of the young cleaner, and to his surprise, he realized she was rather charming. Christy never called back. A week later, Rado ran into his friend Daniel, who casually mentioned seeing the lovely Christy with some handsome, dark-skinned guy in a sports car. Rado simply shrugged, surprised at how calm he felt. No doubt about it, their relationship was over. Are you going to Kito's wedding? Daniel asked. On Friday, their mutual friend, well, more of an acquaintance, was getting married. He was just starting out in business, and to be honest, Rado and Daniel didn't know the groom very well. Still, they felt it was their duty to support him. Rado wasn't thrilled about going to the wedding alone, but what wouldn't you do for the sake of solid male camaraderie? Then it hit him, why not take the restroom cleaner from the bus station? Why not? She's a pretty girl, especially if she's dressed up and has good makeup. She speaks well enough, so she won't embarrass me, and I'll look like I'm with someone. Plus, I can use the opportunity to apologize. With only 2 days left until the wedding, Rado realized he needed to act quickly to both apologize and extend the invitation. His schedule wouldn't allow much downtime, but he decided to make time. It was, after all, a matter of conscience. Lisa was finishing cleaning the women's restroom when Blanca, the waiting area cleaner, approached her. "Lisa, there's a guy asking for you. He's waiting in the break room with flowers." Lisa's first thought was that it was Kito. He's realized he's going to be a father, tracked me down, and now he's here to make amends with flowers. Classic. Another possibility crossed her mind. Maybe his new fling kicked him out. Well, I'll show him. He shouldn't think he can toss me aside like some unwanted puppy and then come crawling back. In truth, Lisa didn't want to talk to Kito at all. That gold digger. To hell with him, she thought angrily. Still, she wouldn't pass up the chance to tell him exactly what she thought of him, and maybe even smack him in the face with his bouquet. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror, adjusted her hair, and, with her head held high, marched to the break room. As soon as Lisa stepped through the door, all her fire drained away, replaced by surprise and confusion. Sitting on the couch was the very passenger who had made a scene about his splashed shoes. And speaking of the shoes, they looked as good as new. So much for all the drama. "Hello," he greeted her politely, smiling as he held out the flowers. "Hello," Lisa echoed, though she hesitated to take the bouquet. "I don't know your name," he said. "My name is Elizabeth." Like a queen, Rado said with a smile, noting that the girl carried herself with the same dignity as her English namesake. "Elizabeth, I came to apologize to you. I really behaved poorly. Please forgive me. And take these flowers, I hope you like them." "They're very beautiful," Lisa said with an indifferent nod, glancing at the bouquet of rudbeckia, zinnias, and gypsophila, which truly was stunning. The visitor looked at her expectantly, and Lisa suddenly remembered to ask. "Apology accepted. Is that all?" "To be honest, not quite," the man said awkwardly. "Oh? And what business could such a respectable gentleman possibly have with a humble cleaner?" "There is one matter, Elizabeth." "Just Lisa is fine," the girl graciously allowed. "Lisa," the lawyer repeated obediently. "My name is Rado. A pleasure to meet you. So, Lisa, I have a proposal for you. I'd like to invite you to a wedding. My friend's wedding." "What?" "I understand this sounds completely crazy," the lawyer said with a smile. "That's an understatement." "Even so, I'd like you to come with me to my friend's wedding," he repeated. "And why me, exactly?" Smart girl, thought Rado. He had figured that out during their first meeting. What intrigued him more was why someone like her was cleaning restrooms. But that was a question for another time. For now. "That's a very logical question," Rado smiled. "And the answer is simple, as a gesture of apology. Though I can see that doesn't satisfy you. All right. My girlfriend dumped me, and I don't want to go alone. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" "Well, yes, essentially." Stunned, Lisa remained silent. She had to admit, his honesty was disarming. But surely he had other female acquaintances who could accompany him. Then again, life can be unpredictable. It can be, she thought. But let's be real, he's asking me to go for a laugh. Rich people have their quirks, after all. Lisa, who had grown up in a wealthy family, knew this all too well. It was nothing for a spoiled 13-year-old to suggest having fun with a maid or a tutor. And successful adult men could be even more eccentric. Taking a restroom cleaner to a wedding? Not the most extravagant idea out there. Lisa imagined the faces of the young men at the wedding, arrogant, though most had never earned a penny themselves. Not all of them, of course, but the majority. Rado, for his part, hesitated to break the silence. Should I offer her money, he wondered, but quickly dismissed the idea. She's proud and would probably refuse. I wonder how those spoiled kids of rich parents would react if they knew I've cleaned restrooms at the bus station, Lisa thought with a smirk and decided that perhaps she shouldn't refuse. For a laugh. Well, let it be, but the one who laughs last, laughs best. Let Renato and his spoiled friends think I'm a girl from a poor family, forced to work for pennies to feed her family and who has never known any other life. All right, I agree, she said. You really agree? Renato asked, sounding skeptical. Yes, Lisa replied simply. Then I'll take care of your outfit. Thanks, but no need. I have something to wear, she said, shaking her head. Lisa, I don't mean to offend you, but my clothes wouldn't match the standards of people in your circle? Is that what you were going to say? Don't worry, I won't embarrass you, she said mockingly. All right, Renato nodded, deciding that with her figure and face, any outfit would look stylish and expensive. Lisa was wearing simple jeans and a plain tank top, but the clothes looked as if they had been bought in a high-end boutique. Little did Renato know, that's exactly where they came from. The wedding is on Friday, so be ready. Let's exchange phone numbers. All right, Lisa nodded and gave him her number. Renato called her back and said, and here's my number. Well, my dear lady, I have to go. It was nice seeing you. Lisa understood it was just a polite phrase, but it still made her feel good. Likewise, she replied with a smile. Thank you, Renato said. Not yet, but good luck, she responded. See you. He's actually quite a pleasant young man, Lisa thought unexpectedly. First impressions can really be deceiving. What a lovely girl, Renato thought as he drove his Lexus out of the bus station. I wonder if she has a boyfriend. On Thursday, Renato called Lisa to check if she had changed her mind. No, everything's still on, she assured him as she was visiting her mother at the sanatorium. Great. Oh, one more thing, where should I pick you up? Lisa was about to give her address, but bit her tongue just in time. There was no need for Renato to know that she and her mother lived in one of the city's most expensive neighborhoods. Instead, she gave him the address of a dormitory, which was a fair distance from their home. In truth, Lisa wasn't thrilled about lying. There had been far too much of it in her life lately. She was hiding her pregnancy from her boss, a genuinely kind person, and now this. The strangest part was that Lisa couldn't even explain why she felt the need to do it. So what if I live in a prestigious area, she thought. If anything, her address would boost her standing in Renato's eyes, presenting her not as a poor restroom cleaner but as someone from the same social circle. The fact that she earned her own money would only command more respect. And yet, Lisa couldn't resist playing a little game. She tried to appease her conscience by telling herself she'd come clean about everything tomorrow. But her conscience rebelled loudly. Fine, I'll teach them all a lesson about respecting everyone equally, she mentally told her conscience. It seemed satisfied with the compromise, and Lisa sighed in relief. Why are you smiling like that? Senora Pinocho asked. Am I smiling? Lisa said in surprise. Oh, you're smiling, all right. And the fact that you don't even realize it says just one thing, you've fallen in love. So, who is he? That young man you were just talking to on the phone? Oh, come on. It's nothing like that. Elizabeth waved dismissively. Sure, and yet you couldn't wipe that smile off your face, her mother teased. He called me on business. And what kind of business would that be? When Lisa explained the story with Renato, her mother, to the girl's amazement, burst into laughter. Mom, what's so funny? Oh, Lisa, life with you is never boring. Why on earth did you go into law? You should have gone to drama school, acting or directing, you'd have been a star. I guarantee you would have graduated with honors. Lisa smiled and shrugged. Well, it's not exactly a typical situation. His girlfriend dumped him. But is it really so important for him to go to a wedding with a date? And out of all people, why me, a bus station cleaner? I don't know what to tell you. Your questions are logical, but you know what they say, people are a mystery. And besides, you could have said no and left it at that. But you didn't. So why not? For the laughs, Lisa said with a sly grin. Is that so? Oh, no, my dear, you've fallen in love. Mom. All right, I'll stop talking. Although, wait, I do have something to say. You need to look stunning. Show up those refined, pretentious snobs. Refined, pretentious snobs? The girl snickered, and she and her mother burst out laughing. Liza stepped out onto the sanatorium grounds and briskly headed towards the bus stop. To her great delight, the minibus arrived almost immediately, and she grabbed a seat by the window. When she reached the city, she went straight to the best beauty salon in town. They knew her there. Hello. The receptionist, Felisa, greeted her with a broad smile. It's been a while since we've seen you. Like you haven't read the news, Liza thought to herself, but said aloud. Busy with things. Oh, I understand, the receptionist chirped on. Studies, personal life. Yeah, Liza muttered and got to the point. I'd like a haircut for long hair. Did you book an appointment? Honestly, no, Liza shook her head with a disarming smile. I came here on a whim. Got it. Let me see what we can do for you. The receptionist opened a document on her computer and said, You're in luck, our hairstylist has an opening. The haircut transformed Liza's look. Why didn't I cut my hair like this before, she thought, looking at herself in the mirror with joyful amazement. Rado was waiting for Liza outside the dormitory she'd mentioned. Running late, like all women, he noted. Why can't women ever manage their time properly? With 20 minutes left before the wedding registration, Rado had already begun regretting his idea. What's the big deal about showing up to a wedding alone, he thought irritably. I'm successful, self-sufficient. Why should something so trivial bother me? Rado was already considering leaving and forgetting about Liza altogether when his eyes landed on a petite girl in a charming floral silk dress that stopped just above her knees. Soft curls shimmered in the sunlight, drawing attention, and light makeup beautifully accentuated her smooth, matte skin. She was clearly waiting for someone. When it finally dawned on Rado that this stunning young woman was Liza, he was speechless. He openly admired her, completely forgetting he was running late for the wedding. She's absolutely gorgeous, he thought in awe and honked the horn to get her attention. Liza waved and walked toward the car. Have you been waiting long? Liza asked. Not really, Rado shook his head. Good. I almost didn't recognize you, he admitted sheepishly. You look amazing. The new haircut suits you perfectly. Thanks. Shall we go? On the way, Rado thought how great it would be if Liza were really my girlfriend. A beauty like her would be a showstopper at any social event. She's every bit as stunning as Christy. Wait, Castilla. Comparing them isn't right, all women are beautiful. Liza, I have a small request, Rado said. She was so captivating that it took all his effort to focus on the road, especially since they were just a few meters from the registry office. I'm listening. How about we switch to you? It feels weird to be so formal with my girlfriend. It really does. And I don't mind at all. That's wonderful. When they arrived at the registry office, a handsome young man in a stylish suit ran up to Renado's car and excitedly began to chatter. Castilla, did you take a detour through the Australian continent by any chance? Just a little unforeseen delay. The lawyer said with a smile, spreading his arms. The ceremony hasn't started yet, right? Not yet. Then what's the problem? You're right, there isn't one anymore. The young man replied, casting a curious glance at Liza. By the way, let me introduce you, this is Liza, a very good friend of mine. Rado quickly added. Daniel. The young man introduced himself and ceremoniously kissed Liza's hand. Pleasure to meet you. Likewise. Now, let's go marry off Kito, Daniel said with a smile. Rado and Liza took their seats among the elegantly dressed guests, where Liza spotted some familiar faces. This was inconvenient, but she hoped not to be recognized. Previously, she used to part her hair deeply to one side, but now she had a thick fringe, and the trimmed side strands framed her face, making it appear narrower. At least Rado hadn't recognized her. Besides, there were quite a lot of people at the wedding, and it wasn't likely anyone would focus on an unfamiliar girl. Try recognizing everyone in such a crowd. So there was at least some chance that Liza would go unnoticed. The first chords of the timeless wedding march began to play, and a murmur swept through the room. Then the newlyweds appeared. The moment Liza caught a glimpse of the groom, she nearly fainted. It was none other than Aniceto Nieto himself. What a twist! And the bride was also familiar to Liza. It was Juliana Fuentes, the dearly beloved only daughter of the CEO of a major construction company. The two girls had crossed paths once at a mutual friend's party, and, while they weren't close, they had generally liked each other. Looks like Aniceto's appetite is growing, Liza thought sarcastically. But poor Juliana. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Kito's expression changed dramatically. He blushed, then turned pale, and finally went green. His eyes darted nervously around the room. He recognized me, the scoundrel. Liza thought with glee, her sarcasm quickly replaced by disgust. What else could one feel toward a slimeball? Is something wrong? Juliana asked the groom, sensing his sudden tension. No, everything's fine, my love. Kito forced out with a strained smile. I'm just very nervous. Oh, that's all? She laughed softly, her laughter melodic. Relax, no one's going to beat you up. I hope not. Aniceto muttered and leaned in to kiss the highlighter-covered cheek of his soon-to-be wife. The gesture didn't go unnoticed by the guests, who immediately erupted into applause. Liza clapped politely a couple of times as well, just for appearances. That's true love. Someone shouted. The bride and groom reached the registrar, and the woman began her speech. She spoke about love and responsibility, about how significant this step was, while Liza barely suppressed the urge to laugh out loud. Responsibility? Nieto? Those two didn't belong in the same sentence. And as for love, Liza had her doubts. The newlyweds signed the register, exchanged rings and their first marital kiss, and the room erupted into a flurry of activity. Guests began approaching the couple to offer congratulations, and Liza felt utterly out of place. What if, she thought, I walked up to Aniceto and said, "Congratulations, darling. So, you found your key to wealth, huh? Well done, well done. Let's hope our future child doesn't take after you. Oh, by the way, you haven't forgotten that you're going to be a father soon, have you? Not that it matters, though, we don't need a father like you, not even for free." Here's hoping Juliana figures out what kind of man she's married and tosses you out like a misbehaving cat. Liza? Pinocho? Came the bride's voice. What a surprise. Hi. Congratulations. Liza stammered awkwardly. Thanks a lot. Where have you been? How are you? What's new? Let's chat. The happy groom stood a little ways off, nervously watching his ex and his new wife. Rado tactfully stepped aside, but unlike Aniceto, he observed the women with curiosity and fascination. The cleaning lady from the bus station knows the daughter of the CEO of a construction company, he thought in astonishment. Well. What other surprises does she have in store? I'm doing fine. I'm working, Liza replied with a smile. Oh, I see. Juliana nodded, looking at her with a hint of sympathy. Where do you work? I clean toilets at the city bus station. Liza grinned even wider, glancing sideways at Aniceto. Wait, what? Juliana asked, her eyes widening in disbelief. Yes, Juliana, you heard me right. I clean toilets at the bus station. After my dad passed away, my mom became seriously ill, and I needed money to pay for her treatment. And we had to live on something, so I took the first job I could find. That's how it is. But didn't you come here with Castilla, or did I imagine that? It's not what you think. Rado is just a good friend. By the way, he recently broke up with his girlfriend, the bride said with a sly smile. I know, but I'm not looking for a relationship right now, Liza nodded. Juliana nodded in understanding, wished Liza the best, and went back to her husband. Liza suddenly felt a strong urge to leave. She now realized that agreeing to attend this wedding had been a bad idea. But on the other hand, it confirmed what a scumbag Aniceto was, and she'd enjoyed seeing his flustered expression. That's enough for me, she decided. Without wasting a second, she disappeared into the crowd and left the registry office. She really wanted to talk to her mom. A scumbag. What a scumbag, huh? Senora Pinocho repeated for what must have been the 100th time. He couldn't make it work with you, so now he's gone after Fuente's daughter. The nerve of him. Yeah, exactly. And even if I told Juliana about it, she wouldn't believe me anyway, Liza said thoughtfully. Of course she wouldn't. And it's not your place to get involved. If you meddle in someone else's family, you'll just end up being the bad guy. Let time sort everything out. Did you lose an earring or something? I don't know. Oh, you're right. It must have come undone, Liza replied in alarm, touching her ears. What a shame, they were good earrings, a gift from Dad. At the mention of her beloved husband, Elena's expression grew sad. Oh no, Mom, I've upset you, Liza sighed. It's fine. Forget about the earring. You can melt it down into a ring or a pendant, no big deal. If only you could fix life that easily. Mom! Liza exclaimed and threw her arms around her mother. The mother and daughter sat, hugging each other and crying. All right, that's enough. Elena said, smiling through her tears. Life goes on. By the way, how's the baby? Are you feeling okay? I'm fine. Liza smiled. Have you been to the maternity clinic? Her mother asked with mock seriousness. I have, and everything's good. Good girl. As always, the conversation with her mother soothed Liza. On her way home, she reflected that, really, nothing terrible had happened. So Aniceto got married, well, that was predictable. But Rado? What about Rado? He's just a passing stranger in my life, she tried to convince herself. Yet deep down, Liza knew she was lying to herself. She was drawn to this man and couldn't help it. Ugh, Mom's right. But what about the fact that you're pregnant? Liza continued her internal dialogue. Do you really think he'd want you with someone else's child? Caught up in her thoughts, Liza nearly missed her stop. You should have gotten ready to get off earlier. An overweight woman in a garish dress grumbled indignantly. Sorry, I was just distracted. Distracted, she says. The woman muttered, reluctantly letting Liza pass. Liza stepped off the bus and headed to the supermarket, where she stocked up on vegetables, fruits, yogurt, and her favorite jam-filled pastries. She then stopped by the pharmacy section to pick up prenatal vitamins. To hell with everything and everyone, she thought, a wave of determination washing over her. From now on, all I care about is Mom and my baby. I'll eat delicious, healthy food, breathe fresh air, and focus only on the positive. With this optimistic thought, she walked toward her apartment building, happily inhaling the summer fragrances. Rado looked around, and not seeing his companion, approached the bride. Liana, forgive me, but could you tell me where Liza went? I don't know, I thought she was with you. No. Castilla shook his head. Rado, may I ask you something? Of course. My love, let's leave everything for later. After all, it's our wedding day, the groom asked with a faint smile. Well, sorry. Another time, Renato, my husband demands my attention, the bride said with a contrite smile, spreading her hands. He's right. Renato smiled and stepped out onto the porch. Frankly, he didn't feel like going to the restaurant without Liza. In fact, his mood had plummeted to rock bottom. Renato had only come to support Aniceto, whom everyone in their circle simply called Kito. Renato had fulfilled his duty, and now nothing was stopping him from sneaking back home. Truth be told, he didn't particularly like Kito, but since they were a team, he figured he had to do his part, which he did. The lawyer thoughtfully surveyed the courtyard of the registry office and suddenly noticed something shiny. For some reason, Renato's heart started pounding like crazy, and within a minute, he was holding a delicate silver earring with an amethyst in his hand. His memory promptly reminded him that Liza had worn earrings like these. Could this be fate, the lawyer thought, and he dashed to his car. Renato, where are you off to? Running away, asked Daniel, stepping out onto the porch. Yes, Daniel, I just got a call, urgent family matters, Renato said with a serious nod. Daniel nodded understandingly, and Renato asked him to apologize to the newlyweds. Handing his friend a thick envelope, he added, Here, pass this along as my gift. And with that, he drove off, hopefully toward a brighter future. At least, Castillo was determined to make sure it turned out that way. This is what real love looks like. Renato thought blissfully as he pulled up to the dormitory. The dorm wasn't very big, so he figured he had a chance of finding Liza, or so it seemed to Renato. Guys, can you tell me which room Liza lives in? He asked some teenagers playing cards. She's kind of short, pretty, with dark hair. I don't think there's any Liza here, one of the boys said, furrowing his brow. Do you know her last name? What's her last name? Another boy asked matter-of-factly. I don't know. Renato replied, flustered. Got a photo? Asked the third teenager. No, the lawyer shook his head in despair. The boys exchanged glances, probably deciding that something was off with Renato, and the first one who had spoken concluded. Then we can't help you. Castillo wasn't ready to give up. He approached the dorm supervisor, but she was of no help either. There's no Liza here, the woman of indeterminate age said curtly. Are you sure? He asked, feeling like a drowning man grasping at straws. Young man, I've been working here for over 20 years, and I know every resident by face, the supervisor replied irritably. Besides, as you can see, there aren't many rooms here, so it's not hard to remember everyone. Well, thanks anyway, Castillo sighed and headed back to his car. Maybe I should call Juliana, he thought, dialing her number. There was no answer. Not surprising, really, after all, it was Juliana's wedding, and her mobile phone was probably the last thing on her mind. The next day, Renato went to the bus station, but luck wasn't on his side there either. Liza Pinocho has the day off today, the administrator replied. This is like a Cinderella story, except instead of a slipper, it's an earring, Renato thought with a smirk. He sat in his car, examining the piece of jewelry. This earring isn't cheap, he noted. It might even be custom made. Interesting, very interesting. Liza Pinocho has the day off today. He recalled the administrator's words, and the surname struck a chord. Of course. That's the last name of the late hotel owner. Now Renato was almost certain that Liza was Gregorio Pinocho's daughter. Why not? If she knew Juliana Fuentes, it was entirely possible they had crossed paths at some social event. She didn't live at the dormitory where Renato had picked her up. Yes, it all makes sense. Castilla concluded to himself and headed back into the bus station building. We don't give out addresses of our employees, the HR department told Renato. No need, thought the lawyer, who had somewhat expected this response. After all, for someone in his line of work, it wasn't a problem. 20 minutes later, he was sitting in the office of a police acquaintance, and 10 minutes after that, Renato had Liza's address. Why are you still sitting here? Asked his friend Manuel with a smirk. Go after your sweetheart, and don't forget the flowers. Will you invite me to the wedding? Oh, Manu, I'm afraid a wedding is as far off as flying to China in a hot air balloon, Castilla replied sadly. Well, you're a determined guy, so I'm sure you'll manage. Go on, and good luck. Break a leg. Manuel chuckled. Thanks. To hell with it. Aniceto and Juliana were flying to Thailand. Darling, is it just me, or are you not happy? Aniceto asked, gazing into his wife's eyes like a loyal dog. Not happy? Not happy about what? Juliana sighed. Oh, I don't know, our wedding, the trip, the upcoming honeymoon. I'm happy. It's just, I can't stop thinking about Liza. Liza? Who's Liza? Juliana could have sworn her husband's voice sounded a bit off, almost fake. Most likely, Kito was trying to show sympathy, but he wasn't very good at it. The girl who came with lawyer Castilla. We even stepped aside to talk. Sorry, I don't remember, her husband shook his head. Why can't you stop thinking about her? Can you imagine? A sheltered girl, like a greenhouse flower, cleaning toilets at the bus station. I just can't wrap my head around it. I probably should have offered her some help. But I didn't. At the mention of his former love, Aniceto felt a pang in his teeth, but forced a smile and said, Kitten, calm down. You had your wedding, so I doubt your, Liza is upset. Besides, as far as I can tell, she's fine with her situation. Yes, maybe you're right, Juliana sighed, but her voice lacked conviction. It just keeps getting better and better, Kito thought irritably. What a mess this is turning into. But this was just the beginning. Aniceto, you know what I was thinking? Juliana asked with a smile. What is it, my love? Her husband inquired tenderly, secretly praying it wouldn't be about Liza. When we get back, let's visit Liza and offer her some help, the heiress of the company's CEO said enthusiastically. Oh God, not this. Aniceto thought in dismay, but aloud, he replied with a smile. Of course, my love. Your wish is my command. Thank you, darling. Juliana replied, looking into his eyes with gratitude and squeezing his hand. I hope she forgets about it, silently prayed the hunter of wealthy brides. Renato Castilla drove into the courtyard where the Pinacho family lived, and the first person he saw was her. Liza was sitting on a bench near the entrance, smiling for some reason. She was wearing a light viscose dress in a delicate blue shade, her hair gathered in a loose bun, and she looked absolutely stunning. Renato now understood, she was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. After taking a moment to admire her, Renato called out to Liza. Noticing the fear in her eyes, he quickly got out of the car before she could run away again. Hello, Renato greeted her with a smile. Hello, Liza replied cautiously. Renato. But you. I mean, you don't know anything about me. Then tell me. Although, since I'm here, I've already learned a few things, don't you think? Perhaps, Liza smiled. And I brought something for you. Wait. Renato retrieved a bouquet of roses, a small cake, and a bottle of champagne from the car, things he'd completely forgotten about in his rush. These are for you, he said with a smile, handing her the gifts. And now, the main surprise. He pulled the earring from his pocket. Is this yours? He asked. Oh. Yes, I'd lost hope of finding it. You see, it was a gift from my father, and it's very dear to me as a memory. She was as happy as a child, and Renato was thrilled just to see her joy. Renato, would you like some coffee? Liza offered, and the successful lawyer felt like the happiest man on earth. She even has to ask? Renato thought with amusement and assured her he wouldn't say no to coffee. Then come on in, Liza said, leading him inside. We have no future together, Liza thought sadly as she set the table. But why not offer the man some coffee as a token of gratitude and have a chat? Meanwhile, Renato curiously surveyed the cozy kitchen where they would be dining. It was so warm and inviting that he didn't want to leave. I hope I become a frequent guest here, Renato thought with a smile. In addition to the cake Renato had brought, Liza laid out some charming cookies, pastries, and fragrant apples on the table. Did you bake these pies yourself? He asked. I did. My mom and I don't believe in store-bought food. I'd love to avoid store-bought food too, but God didn't bless me with cooking skills, Renato admitted with a sheepish smile. So I have to make do with pre-made meals. Well, help yourself to something homemade, Liza said, sliding the plate of pies closer to him. This is delicious, Renato exclaimed, biting into a pie filled with rice and chopped chicken. Well, we do know how to make a few things, Liza replied modestly. Could I have another one? Renato asked, finishing the pie. Of course you can, Liza said with a smile. Delicious. So delicious. Pretty and talented in the kitchen. Someone's going to be very lucky. Highly unlikely, thought Liza, and her mood darkened. Is something wrong? Renato asked. No, everything's fine, she replied. And yet, an awkward silence hung in the air. Liza, tell me about yourself, Renato asked. What's there to tell? Since you found me, you probably already know who my parents were. Yes, by the way, my condolences. Thank you, Liza said with a sad smile. And what about you? What do you do? Well, you know, I clean toilets, and I'm also studying. I had to transfer to the correspondence program. My mom got very sick, we lost the hotel, and so. Lost it? That's curious, thought Castilla. This deserves digging into, but not now. Liza probably wouldn't appreciate talking about it at the moment. And where are you studying? At the university, studying law. No way. That means we're colleagues. Really? Yep. Lawyer Renato Castilla, at your service. And what do you want to do? I'll graduate, and then I'd like to provide legal consultations to the public. And, of course, represent their interests in court. In short, I'm drawn to legal practice too. Kindred spirits, Renato said, half joking, half serious, as he looked intently at Liza. Don't you think? I don't know, she stammered nervously. Well, I do, Renato said firmly. He was resolute. The young man realized he loved her with all his heart and was certain they were meant to be together. Renato would do whatever it took. So why wait? Liza, I want to be with you, he said quietly. Renato, but we barely know each other. Oh, how you women love to complicate things. Renato sighed heavily. And you men like to simplify everything. Liza retorted. But isn't this really quite simple? He asked. Not for everyone, she murmured. Don't you like me at all? Renato asked, determined to find out the truth once and for all. After all, she might already be taken or in love with someone else. Castillo was prepared to accept any truth, and if he and Liza couldn't be together, then so be it, he would leave her life and never bother her again. I do like you, Liza replied. It would have been silly to deny the obvious. But, Liza, what is it? He asked gently. The thing is, I'm pregnant. And the child's father? He's away. When he comes back, we'll get married. This lie was unbearably difficult for her, but she kept telling herself, this is for the best, for both of us. I see, Renato nodded, feeling like a beaten dog. Well, I should probably go. Yes, of course. I'll see you out. No need. Thank you for the earring. You're welcome. Goodbye. Liza heard the door slam in the hallway and flinched. She suddenly felt the urge to cry but held it in. This is for the best, Liza repeated to herself like a mantra. This is for the best. But despite her resolve, she broke down in tears. For the next 2 weeks, Castilla threw himself into nonstop work, grateful for the distraction. Without it, he would have likely lost his mind. Yet, every night before falling asleep, he whispered, "Liza, Liza, why did it have to be this way?" Renato remembered every detail of her face and went crazy at the thought that he could no longer touch her velvety cheeks with their endearing dimples or kiss those lips he longed to savor endlessly. God, such thoughts could drive a man insane. Even upon learning of her pregnancy, Renato, though taken aback, had never wavered in his intentions. His question about the child's father was more to confirm that Liza was free. After all, what kind of man would allow the mother of his future child to clean toilets at a bus station? Renato had wanted to ask her that, but hadn't dared. It wasn't his place, this was their relationship, and it didn't concern Renato Castilla. The most important thing was that the child's father existed, and according to Liza, they were planning to get married. So why impose? Decision made, Renato would immerse himself in work, try to forget Liza, and find another woman. Maybe even fall in love again. They say one love drives out another. Sometimes it works. For now, though, Renato stared at the ceiling, pondering how unfair life could be. Why didn't Liza and I meet earlier, he wondered, finding no answer, because there wasn't one. That's just life, and there's nothing you can do about it. Oh. It feels like we've bought out all the local shops, Juliana said with a laugh, clearly tired after a long shopping spree. What do you think? Will Liza like this dress? Kito glanced indifferently at the fitted orange sheath dress. He suddenly remembered his former lover's condition and noted to himself that this cute little dress wouldn't fit Liza now. Maybe. I don't know her tastes. Aniceto shrugged. Oh, don't give me that. Remember, you promised we'd go visit Liza together. We'll see, darling. I'll have a lot of work to do to learn everything and prove myself as a reliable employee. But surely we can find one evening? Let's see. I'd rather carve out an evening to spend alone with my beautiful wife. Well, of course, Juliana said with a charming smile. But, you know, there's life outside the bedroom too, and a good girl who seems to need help. Kitten, we've talked about this. Your friend hasn't asked you for anything. So why force help on her? Liza's proud, she won't beg. Anyway, Kito, I've decided to offer her some support, and I don't understand why you're against it. I'm not against it, Aniceto said, feigning sincerity. Good, then, Juliana concluded, kissing him on the cheek before diving into a more detailed fitting session of the outfits she'd bought for herself. The next day, the Nieto couple was set to fly home, and truthfully, Juliana was eagerly looking forward to it. She was excited to give gifts to her parents and, most importantly, to visit Liza and somehow get involved in her life. It was clear to Juliana that Liza was having a hard time, though her husband seemed to think otherwise. What a fool, exclaimed Senora Pinocho after hearing her daughter's story about how she had effectively pushed Renato away. Mom, what do you expect me to do, tie someone else's child to Renato? Ugh, how crude. What's with this tie nonsense? I just got the impression that your Renato is ready to take responsibility for your child. He's not mine, Liza protested. Of course, he's not. You kicked him away, and men are so prideful about things like that. Liza suddenly felt sad. Why hadn't she told Renato the truth? And it wasn't even about the possibility of them being happy together. Judging by the circumstances, her ex-lover worked for her new father-in-law's company, and the veteran colleagues seemed to support him as much as they could. Though, with a father-in-law like that, Aniceto didn't need much support, but life is full of surprises. Maybe the employees were helping him on orders from the boss. Besides, a newcomer to the business world needed to build a social circle. It made Liza wonder, how would Renato and his colleagues react if they found out that the newcomer, Aniceto, had abandoned Liza as soon as she lost her dowry, and while pregnant no less. It didn't take a genius to figure out why he had married Juliana. Enough with the self-blame, Liza thought to herself. Let things go as they will. Right now, the baby is my priority, and everything else is secondary. And you know what, Mom? If Renato and I are meant to be together, then it will happen. You've grown up. I didn't even notice when it happened, her mother said thoughtfully. Oh, Mom, that happened back in school, but you and Dad didn't notice at all. Well, to parents, their kids are still children, even at 30. Yes, but I always felt like you took that a little too literally, Liza said seriously. Don't take it the wrong way, but sometimes I thought you were holding me back from growing up. I take it back. Senora Pinocho smiled. You've proven that you're grown up and strong. Good for you. The mother and daughter chatted for another half an hour before Liza ran to the bus stop. As she rode, she thought, how wonderful it is to have a mom you can talk to like a friend, someone who understands, doesn't judge, and offers advice when needed. Tears suddenly welled up in her eyes. It seemed like just yesterday they were a family, Mom, Dad, and Liza. Now, it was just her and her mother. You need to cherish your loved ones while they're still alive. Only now did Liza truly grasp the meaning of those words. How rarely she had told her dad how much she loved him. But she would say it as often as possible to her mom. I'll tell her every day, she thought tenderly and whispered, not immediately realizing she was speaking aloud. Mom, Mommy. An elderly woman sitting next to Liza gave her a kind smile. That's nothing to be embarrassed about, dear. Love for your mother is nothing to hide. Is your mom still with you? Yes, she is. She was very sick, but she's better now. Well, that's good to hear. Take care of her, you've only got one mother. I will, Liza answered softly, feeling a lump in her throat. As Liza walked home, tears streamed down her cheeks. But these were tears that left her feeling renewed and at peace. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger, she thought blissfully 20 minutes later, enjoying a refreshing sip of cold apple juice. We'll get through this. Oh, how good it is to be home! Juliana exclaimed, stretching contentedly. The couple had flown in late at night, but they didn't feel like sleeping, the time difference was taking its toll. Aniceto shrugged, he had preferred Thailand, but his father-in-law hadn't bought him an apartment there. A pity. Still, the spacious four-room apartment with a large balcony in a well-landscaped neighborhood wasn't bad either. Kito, let's go visit Liza tomorrow, Juliana suggested, sipping fragrant tea with exotic fruit pieces they'd brought back from Thailand. Or rather, today, since it's already morning. Not again, her husband groaned internally but forced a smile. My kind-hearted wife. Well, if you insist. Really? Juliana beamed like a child. Really, sweetheart, Aniceto nodded, already trying to think of an excuse to avoid the trip. Kito, I love you so much. Juliana exclaimed, planting kisses on both his cheeks. And I love you, my kitten, he replied with feeling. Now I'm starting to feel sleepy, Juliana yawned. Then let's go to bed. I'm feeling drowsy too. Maybe it's the champagne? Who knows? The next morning, Juliana felt unwell, her head was spinning, and her blood pressure had shot up. I've never felt like this before, she groaned. I think I overestimated my strength. We'll have to postpone the trip to see Liza. And then, an idea struck Aniceto. Sweetheart, let me deliver the dress and whatever else you wanted to Liza, and you can visit her when you're feeling better. Do you really want to give Liza the dress yourself? His wife asked, surprised. Why not? It's just. I thought you weren't thrilled about my idea to help Liza. Kitten, honestly, I'm so proud of you. You're kind, beautiful women are rare these days. So, what do you want me to give your Liza? Besides the dress, I wanted to give her some money. I don't have her phone number to transfer it, but luckily, I have some cash. Can you do that? Of course. Renato Castilla loved his job, but lately, he worshipped it. It had become his refuge from depression. However, weekends had turned into pure torture. Renato tried to distract himself from thoughts of Liza, but he couldn't. The image of the petite, dark-haired beauty haunted him. For the first time in my life, I've truly fallen in love, and it's been a disaster, he thought bitterly. I'd give anything just to see her for 5 minutes. Actually, what's stopping me? Renato knew Liza's work schedule, so it didn't take much effort to figure out she was working that day. Within 10 minutes, he was driving his beloved Lexus toward the bus station. Kito, heading to the same place, didn't know his ex-fiancée's schedule. He hadn't even thought about it. He was simply going where he assumed he could find Liza and give her a piece of his mind. Kito arrived 20 minutes before Renato. The dress from Thailand and the envelope of cash stayed untouched in the car. She'll manage. Kito smirked to himself. Too much honor for her. And this will definitely kill my darling wife's desire to help this pathetic girl. I'll make sure of it. As he entered the bus station, Liza was coming out of the restroom to fetch some water. Hello, Kito said mockingly, looking her over from head to toe. Hello, she replied without bothering to hide her disdain. What brings you here? I'm here to see you, he said with a smile that promised nothing good. Really? And what do you want from me? God, how vile he is. How could I ever have loved this man? He's a moral monster. Where can we talk? He asked. Liza had no desire to go to the lounge with Kito, so she said, maybe on the bench near the passenger drop-off zone. Fine, let's go. They sat down on the bench, and Kito said maliciously, what, trying to worm your way back into polite society? It won't work. You're a nobody, and nobody cares about you. I could say the same about you. If anyone here is worming their way into polite society, it's certainly not me. What's that supposed to mean? He asked with a threatening tone. No hints here, just the plain truth. Seeing Liza with Aniceto, Renato was, to put it mildly, stunned. Could Kito really be the father of Liza's child? Is that why she ran away from the wedding? Renato remembered Liza's words about the father of her child being away. That was true. But then, Kito and Juliana had left for their honeymoon. Yes, but Liza said they would get married. Renato thought in confusion as he watched them. So maybe Kito isn't the father? Or was Liza hoping he'd divorce Juliana? Judging by the expressions on Liza's and Kito's faces, the conversation wasn't pleasant. But what could they be talking about? Renato had always been against eavesdropping, but he knew there were exceptions. His intuition told him this was one of those times. He got out of his car and positioned himself behind a large banner on the opposite side of the passenger drop-off area. You think Castillo would want you with someone else's child? Renato heard Kito's mocking voice. Have you seen his girlfriend? She's a stunner. Beautiful, glamorous, and not as short as you. He only brought you to the wedding for laughs, like some stray. It seems like it's time to step in, Renato decided, feeling rage boiling inside him. And who told you that? Renato's voice rang out like a sudden clap of thunder. Renato? I was just... Kito stammered. He didn't get to finish. Renato's powerful punch to his jaw ensured that. Want more? The lawyer asked, trying to keep his voice calm. What's going on here? A police officer asked sternly as he approached. He hit me. Did you see that? Kito yelled. Come with me, the officer said matter-of-factly, pulling out handcuffs with the finesse of a magician and snapping them onto Renato's wrists. Liza cried out. He didn't do anything. But a sharp pain in her lower abdomen robbed her of her voice. She sat on the bench, doubling over. Liza? Call an ambulance. Can't you see she's unwell? The pain intensified, and then everything went black before her eyes. After a good amount of restorative sleep, Juliana felt significantly better and decided to make herself some coffee. She picked up her smartphone and headed to the kitchen. Juliana suspected that Liza might not have accepted the money and decided to call Kito and Liza. but neither her husband nor her friend answered. Strange, she muttered, pouring coffee into a tiny cup. Juliana dialed Liza and Aniceto again, but still, no one picked up. What is going on? She thought in frustration, and an ominous feeling crept over her. To distract herself, Juliana opened her social media app and froze. The first thing she saw on her feed was a video clip showing lawyer Rado Castilla punching her husband in the jaw. Nearby, on a bench in the passenger drop-off area, sat Liza, who appeared to be unwell. A police officer was escorting Rado, while Kito trailed behind. What nonsense is this? Juliana thought in bewilderment. She knew Rado Castilla well and was certain he wouldn't hurt a fly. So, what could Kito have done to provoke him? The armchair commentators were in full swing. It's obviously a love triangle. That's the toilet cleaner from the bus station. Lucky her, guys are fighting over her. If I'm not mistaken, that's lawyer Rado Castilla, a successful man, acting like a common thug. Juliana was in turmoil. What if this is because of Liza, she thought. Of course. Kito clearly didn't want to go see her, and Liza ran away from the wedding. It all adds up. But then, why did Aniceto go to her? And why did Rado punch him in the jaw? Did Kito insult Liza? One thing is clear, Kito had a relationship with Liza. But what exactly happened? Forgetting about her now cold coffee, Juliana paced the room, deep in thought. She dialed Aniceto again, and this time, her husband picked up. Kito, I saw the video online. Why did Rado Castilla hit you? Because he's crazy, like your friend. Kito barked. What happened? What happened is I tried to give her what you asked me to, as a decent person, and she started screaming like a lunatic that she doesn't need charity. Juliana sighed heavily. Aniceto had a point, it's not wise to force help on someone who doesn't ask for it. Fair enough, if Liza likes cleaning toilets, who's to argue? And then, out of nowhere, that lawyer punk showed up and punched me, her husband fumed. The guy's insane. But I didn't let it slide. What do you mean? Juliana asked, stunned by what she was hearing. I mean, I filed a complaint against him. Aniceto announced triumphantly. Rado could lose his law license. Juliana thought in shock. She understood that street fights weren't tolerated by the law and that Rado had a bright future ahead of him. And while everything Kito said seemed logical, why did Juliana struggle to believe it? She had always known Rado as a decent person, and something told her there was more to the story. I see. Are you heading home now? Yes, darling, I'm on my way home. Sweetheart, she thought with annoyance. To be honest, Juliana was already fed up with her husband's syrupy tones, along with his kittens, bunnies, and cuties, as if she didn't have a name. We haven't even been married for months, and he's already irritating me. Juliana noted gloomily. She suspected she had made a big mistake. Liza woke up in the hospital. Awake, sleeping beauty, the doctor asked with a smile. What happened to me? Nothing serious anymore. You were overly stressed, which isn't good in your condition. And the baby? Is everything okay with the baby? The baby is fine, but no more stress in the future, the doctor warned, wagging a finger. Otherwise, things could end up much worse. Understood. Where's my phone? Probably in your bag. I'll get it for you. Her call log was full of missed calls from Juliana, Rado, Senor Reyes, and, most importantly, her mom. It was her mom's number that Liza dialed first. Sweetheart, where have you been? Senora Pinocho asked anxiously. Liza decided not to tell her mother she was in the hospital, so she replied. Mom, sorry. I've been so busy, and I left my phone in the lounge. I see, her mother responded, not entirely believing her. She knew her daughter well enough to sense from her voice that something had happened. However, Liza was alive, and that was the most important thing. Everything else could be fixed or endured. Oh, I almost forgot. The day after tomorrow, I'm coming home. Mom, that's wonderful, Liza exclaimed. She had to get out of here at all costs. After all, she needed to meet her mom. It is. The sanatorium was nice, but there's no place like home. Golden words, Mom, Liza agreed. I'll give you the best welcome ever. However, the grand welcome was soon in doubt. That's out of the question, said the doctor firmly. His name, as it turned out, was Señor Espejo. You should stay here for at least another week for observation. A week? Liza repeated in a faint voice. Yes, a week. Uterine tone is no joke, he confirmed. But I have to meet my mom from the sanatorium. I'm sure the future young father can handle this task brilliantly, the doctor smiled. The future young father? But we're not together. Well, it didn't seem that way to me. He called while you were unconscious and asked to be kept updated. By the way, he'll be here any minute. The doctor's phone rang. And here he is. Señor Espejo winked at Liza. Excuse me, I need to take this. Yes, Señor Castilla? Yes, she's been awake for a while. Of course. No problem. Señor Espejo ended the call and smiled, saying, See? I told you the future young father would be here any minute. But I must look pale and unattractive, Liza thought in a panic, but the doctor burst out laughing. I assure you, young lady, you are stunning. And to your fiancé, you are undoubtedly the most beautiful woman in the world. Can you read my mind? Liza giggled. Not at all, no magic here. It's just that 9 out of 10 lovely ladies worry about how they look in front of a man. I see, she laughed, feeling a sudden lightness in her heart. Now Liza knew for sure everything would be all right. How are you feeling? Renato asked as he placed a large bag on the bedside table. A bouquet of tea roses already stood in a vase generously provided by Señor Espejo. Not too bad. The doctor said I need to stay here for another week. Can you believe it? Ah, what a cruel doctor, the lawyer smirked before adding seriously, but he probably knows best. Maybe, but the day after tomorrow, I need to pick up my mom from the sanatorium. Liza groaned. She doesn't even know I'm in the hospital. You can count on me. I'll get there in no time. So just tell your mom her future son-in-law will pick her up. Excuse me, what? Liza, please don't try to tell me fairy tales about the baby's father being out of town, he sighed. It's Nieto, isn't it? Yes, Liza admitted. What happened between you two, if you don't mind me asking? Renato inquired, smiling. Come on, spill the beans. After all, I got into a fight with him because of you. And so, she told him everything without holding back. I always had the feeling Nieto was a rotten apple. Turns out I was right. Poor Juliana, Liza sighed. Yeah, but Juliana's smart. She'll figure it out. By the time she does, it might be too late. But Liza was wrong. That evening, Juliana called Renato and demanded details. Juliana, it's not my secret to tell. My advice? Talk to Liza. She has something to say, but I don't make it a habit to meddle in women's business. The next day, the CEO's daughter visited Liza in the hospital, and the two women talked for over an hour. When Juliana learned that Kito hadn't given her the dress or the money, she was furious. Returning home, she immediately called her father and told him everything. You wanted to see me, Señor Fuentes? Aniceto asked as he stepped into his father-in-law's office. I did. You're fired. Fuentes nodded. What? You heard me. I don't need gold diggers in my family business. But Get out. When Elena found out her daughter was in the hospital, she panicked. Mom. Everything's fine now. Liza reassured her, but her mother kept fussing. Mom, I promise I'll take care of myself. But I need to tell you something. Did the lawyer propose to you? Her mother asked excitedly. Almost. And he's coming to pick you up. Liza, you've just made me the happiest woman in the world. I have no objections to a son-in-law like that. Senora Pinocho exclaimed. A month passed. Liza had always loved August, not too hot, not too cold, with the scent of flowers in the air, perfect wedding weather. At Liza and Renato's wedding, only the closest people were present, Senora Pinocho, the groom's parents, Juliana, Daniel, and a few friends and relatives of the couple. Will you still say I brought you to this wedding just for laughs? Renato whispered to his new wife after they exchanged rings and shared their first married kiss. Liza had joked about it once, and he had just laughed. Well, laughter extends life. Liza whispered back. Then I hope it extends our marriage, her husband smiled. What are you two whispering about, lawyer couple? Daniel asked cheerfully. The newlyweds couldn't help but notice his occasional love-struck glances at Juliana. The heiress of the construction company, however, wasn't ready for a new relationship after her divorce. But the newlyweds laughed heartily, hoping Daniel might win her over someday. Love, the Castillas answered in unison, laughing. For the wedding reception, they chose a small but cozy restaurant. Daddy, Liza whispered as she stood on the balcony, gazing at the sky. I wish you could have lived to see this day. And then she thought she heard Gueo's voice. I love you, my daughter. Be happy. What are you thinking about? Renato asked, wrapping his arms around his wife. My dad just congratulated me, she said, smiling through tears. You don't believe me, do you? Of course I believe you, her loving husband replied with a smile.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.